Hi everyone, I'm Morgan. It seems that I've forgotten my title card, but I'm Morgan Herman. I'm the blacksmithing studio assistant here. This is a table that I made. So a little bit about me. I guess I never really had labeled myself as an artist. Before coming here, I always just kind of made things. I've been making things my entire life. My grandfather was an industrial arts teacher, and he had me using a table saw at the age of 5, and I just kind of never stopped making things. So I'm really grateful to him for giving me kind of what I love. So this is a table that I made as a Mother's Day gift to my mom. And it's walnut and it has split legs, and we'll get to a little bit more about that later. So this is a pretty early like jewelry piece that I did. I've always kind of been fascinated by natural forms and organic shapes. This is a leaf that I made of copper, and it's got a brass wire piece. It's not perfect by any means, but like I said, it is early. And I love blending wood with other materials and making multimedia pieces. I've always been kind of interested in blending as many different materials as I possibly can. This is 3 different materials, and it's like this big. So I don't know. It's and organic shapes again with this acrylic. It's got this super organic kind of curvature to it, even though it's stuck in this kind of square space. So that kind of brings me to knife making. Knives are very organic shapes, but they have this very angular kind of cross-section to them. And I find that they're kind of really elegant. So I started messing around with knives at home, and these are not great at all. But the one with the Purple Heart handle on your left, I guess, is the first knife that I ever finished. And then I think the one on the right is the second, and then that's the third. So there's a material called Damascus steel, and it's 2 different kinds of metal, 2 different alloys welded on top of each other. At a really high temperature, and you can make all these crazy patterns with it. And I find, like natural organic shapes to be really fascinating. So I'm super drawn to the Damascus steel. I started messing around with that pretty early on in knife making. So after high school, I went to school for welding. And I did not like it. It wasn't really for me. It's a great school, I'm glad I have it, and it directly influenced my job at this place, Tech Shop. So Tech Shop was a makerspace. I had access to 10 million different tools. This is where I first started blacksmithing, messing around with a forge. We had a wonderful machine shop and our gathering space. And on this last sword here, the guy who's holding it is Dan Thompson. He's a knife maker that I met there that I started apprenticing under and have been apprenticing under ever since. But it gave me this wonderful platform to blend materials and to learn more about making things and network with all of these other people who make things. So this is another early knife. This is 4 or 5, I can't remember. But again, I'm using these, kind of organic materials like Damascus steel. And here, while I was at Tech Shop, I met this guy, James Shire, and he runs a jewelry company, but he laser cuts wooden jewelry in geometric forms. And he taught me a lot about wood, and I kind of fell in love with identifying and using all sorts of crazy wood materials. So this is a piece of stabilized, that's incorrect, it's actually stabilized maple. But burl is a growth, it's almost like a wart where the tree is healed or grown in on itself, and it creates this really beautiful pattern. And I don't know, I might have some more clear pictures later on. So this is another knife. This is a pretty small one, it's like this big. My knife, it's a lot cleaner than the other ones. You can see there's a distinct bevel. It's pretty unremarkable, but it shows the progression pretty well. So back to the organic, kind of natural looking materials. This is mocha magane that I made out of quarters with a little torch. So you heat them up and you squash them just like Damascus, except it's copper and nickel. And you can create this really two-toned, interesting material out of it. And it's something I want to mess around with a lot more. And so this is the table from before. It was a Mother's Day gift. And so Tech Shop gave me this wonderful tool. I unfortunately could not put the video in here, but they had a CNC wood router, so it gave me this platform to build this awesome table, and the table came, or the walnut came out of the shop as well. But it's just, I really found out that I love woodworking, and that's kind of what I want to do. But again, back to the roots of metal, it's the base of it is welded too. So it's a supernatural thing sitting on top of a very man-made organic thing. Yeah, a continuation of using Damascus to try and fit organic shapes in wherever I can. This is pretty recent work. You can see I have my maker's mark on there. I've been messing around, so unfortunately it's sort of blurry, but there's a pin there on the larger knife. The forward pin has a lot of small detail. I've been playing around with using scale to draw people into my pieces. So I was experimenting with mosaic pins, which is a whole bunch of smaller pins put in a tube and epoxied there, so glued there. And then you can get a cross section, and it's this really interesting detail that you can add. And it's pretty subtle, so you have to get pretty close to look at it. So that kind of brings me here, actually. I found Touchstone, and it's kind of changed me again. I, again, would never have referred to myself as an artist. I just kind of made things. But since being here, I've kind of reframed, which is great. So a few weeks ago, I guess a month and a few weeks ago, we had a really amazing knife maker here, Andrew Mears. And he asked me what I wanted to make while he was here. And I told him the goal for the end of the summer was making some explosion Damascus. And he is amazing at making Damascus steel. So he was like, okay, let's do it. So he showed me how to do this. This is an explosion pattern. You can see it radiates out from the center. This has something like 200 some odd layers in it. I started with 11, so that kind of gives you an idea of how many times I had to cut and fold and re-weld and restack. And thinking about these patterns is really difficult because you can't always see where the material is. So you have to really plan out your steps when you're making it. So these are pieces that are really, really current. Some of you might have seen them in the gallery. This is a set. So a set of 3 pendants. They each are etched for a different amount of time in ferric chloride. These are not Damascus. These are actually wrought iron, which is something that not a lot of people know what it actually is. A lot of times people refer to something as a wrought iron gate, but 99% of the times it is not actual wrought iron. Wrought iron is kind of an outdated term, or I guess outdated material, not so much a term. But they sort of phased it out. By the time America came around, we were really using steel by then. But you can still get it, and the cool thing about wrought iron is that it has a grain structure like wood, which obviously really fascinates me. So this is the first time I've ever gotten to work with it, so I wanted to make it test pieces. So these are each etched in ferric chloride, which is a pretty strong chemical. And it'll eat away at the silica in the material. And as you can see, you get a progressive etch. Okay. You guys have any questions?